So, welcome to another edition of the Influence Global podcast. Really delighted to have Nick Ronald with us from who's a divisional director from Toastmasters. And today we're going to talk a lot about presenting. Now, obviously, within the influencer space, a lot of you will be actively presenting online, but I think it's worth mentioning that there's all sorts of different ways in which you're going to be potentially faced with presenting. And Nick and I are going to talk about some of those examples, and Nick's going to share some great tips on how we can be better presenters. So, Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gordon. It's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about Toastmasters, because although it's quite an established organization now, there will obviously be people that don't know about it. So could you just enlighten us a little bit?
Well, for people who don't know, Toastmasters is the largest and oldest not-for-profit organisation that's dedicated to helping people improve their leadership and public speaking skills. It's based very much on a few principles. One is it's through experiential learning, so people learn by doing, and by practice. So people they learn, they practice, and then they get feedback. They use that feedback, and then they practice. So yes, it's fantastic. It's like a huge organisation, and it's not-for-profit, and it's dedicated just for helping you with leadership, public speaking skills.
Yeah, and you've got like 270 odd thousand members all around the world. So I guess you've got a fairly well-oiled structure at some of the meetings. Now, I've had the pleasure of going to one of the meetings, albeit a few years ago, and I was really impressed in the way in which people take on different roles within those meetings.
Yeah, no, it is. It's very well structured. I think if you go to any meeting, every club's different, and the venues where clubs meet can vary. We have corporate clubs and we have clubs that meet at our pubs, but the meeting structure is very similar. So if you go to any meeting, you'll find that the order of a meeting is very similar, and everything's timed. Timing is very important in Toastmasters. So there's an agenda with strict timings, and there's a timekeeper who monitors times. So it's another part of Toastmasters. So yeah, definitely.
And you also said feedback. Of course, I mean, I'm a speaker myself, and so often when you do these events in front of lots of people, we all crave for feedback, good, bad. I mean, obviously we like to get good feedback, but also we also want to know if the feedback it could be improved, or are there things that landed well, or those that aren't. And I guess in your environment, it's a relatively safe space to, well, I guess, cock up, if that's the right tone of phrase.
Well, I think feedback is actually something which it's really important. I mean, there's an art to giving good feedback. I think constructive feedback is a key, and we want people to learn from the feedback, and be motivated by it. To feel that they take on board where things they can improve on, and feel motivated to improve in areas that they need to improve on. So all feedback within Toastmasters is given a very motivating sort of framework, but it's there's still principles. So when feedback's given, it's very specific. Specific examples. And we always there's a formula we give. So we start off with something very, very positive. What they did well. Then we give some examples of things they can improve on, very specific examples, and then we finish off with some very positive comments at the end, because experience shows that people are motivated with feedback, and more like to take on board. So it's everything in Toastmasters is trying to be done in an encouraging, motivated way.
Yeah, and of course, when it comes to speaking, sometimes it's about, as you rightly said, it's about improving their self-confidence, because it might also be speaking up in a board meeting. It might be, and it doesn't have to necessarily be in front of hundreds of people. It can be in those smaller environments where the impact of being able to articulate yourself in a clear and distinctive way can have huge benefits, can't it?
I mean, 100%. I mean, when we talk of public speaking, we're not just talking about speaking on stage to hundreds of people in an auditorium. And the principles, public speaking, that certainly learned on Toastmasters, can apply to a job interview. It can apply to a sales pitch. Certainly, a lot of people who come to Toastmasters, it's to do with work situations, trying to be more confident to work, or business. But definitely, I think if you want to be successful in business or in work, being able to confidently present, sell yourself, present your ideas, persuade people, your manager or your co-workers, do powerful presentations. I mean, these are key skills. So definitely, well, the work environment, that's a big one.
So let's dig into some of those skills, perhaps, in a little bit more detail. What somebody coming along to one of your sessions, what are some of the things that you are teaching people about how to present better? And let's talk a little bit about maybe that structure. What should a really great presentation look like?
So just for the first part, two things we teach people if they come to, say, a Toastmaster meeting. One is, so every Toastmaster meeting has an impromptu speaking section and a paired speech section. And I think those are two very different skills. So the impromptu, every meeting we give members an opportunity to practice their impromptu speaking, because in life, if you go to a job interview or you go to a networking event, or even if you're giving a presentation, you might not know the questions people are going to ask, what people are going to say when you meet them. So think on your feet and give a clear, compelling answer to any question is a incredible skill. So that's definitely one thing that for Toastmasters, any guests will experience that. The other thing, talking about what makes a good speech or presentation, I think there's several elements. I think the important thing, is partly the hook, the bit at the beginning. If you don't hook people's attention in and get them interested, intrigued, you get them excited at the beginning, then obviously it's harder to hook them in a late stage. So that opening, for the moment you start speaking on stage, you want to get them excited and wanting to know more. I think a well-structured speech is a bit important. It comes out of preparation practice. We tell people to prepare your speech and practice it. I think it's speech should be aimed to sort of excite people. I think there's a famous saying, that people don't remember what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And that a good presentation will have that effect. It's informing people, standing with a PowerPoint presentation, informing people. It doesn't really work very well at getting people to remember what you're saying and also take action. So what you really need to do is you need to engage with your audience. So how can you engage with the audience? How can you get them to participate? Through asking them questions, getting them to interact in some way, any sort of way that you can get the audience to almost be involved in the speech rather than just being passive listeners. Because ultimately, I think most presentations but most of them want us to do something at the end. There's some sort of call to action. You want us to go away and do something, and I think that's the important thing. What do you want to do at the end of the presentation?
And I agree with it's that whole phrase of how you made them feel. I mean, I must admit, when I look at an audience, I'm often looking at the head nodders or those that have got eye contact, because in some instances, of course, people will have come to events that you may be part of, and they've come to see you, specifically to see you. But other events, you are being wheeled on as somebody that hasn't necessarily been invited. So there is a little bit of, come on then, entertain me. And you feel that as a speaker, don't you? So how do you overcome, what's your sort of best tips for overcoming nerves?
Nerves is it's one, I think every speaker experiences nerves. I've hear all public speakers say that before they go on the stage, they'll always, there's always been nerves. I think there's a couple of things. I think going back, preparation and practice. If you know what you're going to say, know it so well that it just comes out naturally. You don't have to try and see that script in your mind. There's no chance you're forgetting what to say because you know it so well. I think that is just such a make a huge difference, because what we often find with nerves is we forget what we're going to say. That's a classic thing. I think, I experienced it once. I was talking and I suddenly had a complete blank, and I thought,
I did too. I did
totally
too.
what I was going to say. And I think that's the big, and also I think that's one of our biggest fears, is forget what we're going to say. So I think one of the biggest things that I would say is, practice it. So, practice it in different environments with different people. Practice it, in all sorts of different ways and different times. So, when you do go on stage to speak or give a presentation, you are so, at least that you, in your mind, you don't have to struggle to think, it's there. I think my second tip would be about pausing. We
100%.
don't use pausing enough, and it's such a powerful thing. When people are nervous, people tend to either speak really quickly, which is one of the most common things, or they will speak slower and quieter. But if you pausing can be such a powerful thing, because if you can't think of anything to say, then obviously pausing gives you time to gather your thoughts, take a deep breath, calm yourself down, continue. And what we often think when we pause is, this is lasting forever. You feel so much pressure when you stand there pausing, but actually, in reality, 90% of the time, a pause, no one notices. People just see the pause as a couple of seconds. It hooks people's attention. When you pause, people automatically think, "What's he going to say?" It's actually, most of the time when you pause, people want to know what you're going to say next. It's a powerful way of getting people's attention. So a pause can be used to calm yourself down, give you a moment to take a deep breath and sort of gather your thoughts. But also, actually, what we tend to do when we're speaking, if we can't think of anything to say or we're nervous, is we use filler words. We but if we pause, then that's a much more powerful and effective way to help that.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I think, which I've seen, is you always use little cards as opposed to paper, because unless the paper is on, some form of lectern, there's nothing worse than seeing that paper move and wobble. Because everybody is focused on the individual, and you feel for them hugely, and you can't actually really understand what they're saying. You're almost whispering to your colleagues, "Oh, she's so nervous," or "He's so nervous." And I think the other thing I would say is that most of the time the audience want you to succeed. It's the issue for the speaker is self-limiting beliefs, isn't it? And it's that they have created that problem in their mind. I did a podcast just on Friday on the back of a speech that I saw at the Cannes Lions Festival with a global restaurateur, Will Gadara, and he was mesmerizing when I saw him at the event in Cannes, but he was equally mesmerizing when I recorded him on Friday, and I realized this guy makes me tingle when I listen to him. And I was just, because we're talking about speaking now, and it's almost like he repeats certain words. He says, "I believe that this should happen. I believe," and "I believe." In other words, he's reiterating a sense of, but it was all about human connection and the importance of the dining room table. But wow, did it leave a mark on me? And we're all nodding and thinking, yeah. But he did it with so tone and pitch are also super important to me. I tend to jump in when I hear excitable people, but I was just literally I could listen to you for hours. So it just shows you that doing your research as a speaker to look at other speakers and how they conduct themselves with pausing, with intonation, with all of the things that you're talking about make absolute sense, rather than just thinking, right, I'm going to give it a go. Because the worst thing about making having a blank, as you've experienced and I have experienced many, many years ago, but unfortunately that seed is still in my head. And you have to make sure that that doesn't pop in again to say, remember the time that.
Sure. That is true.
Yeah. So that's some really good tips as well. But what do you think about the environment that you're speaking in? Because there's one thing to prepare for your speech, but there are all manner of issues that can go wrong. Whether it's the microphone doesn't working in front of a lot of people and everybody's looking at you, whether or not the PowerPoint or the IT doesn't work, or suddenly you're about to show a video and that doesn't show. And all of those things could be outside of your control, but to the audience they're all looking at you. So how do you get around that challenge?
It's a great question, and with the move towards more hybrid styles of presenting, we present increasingly online. There's a lot of hybrid meetings, events taking place. So certainly, there's a lot of challenge about with making sure the technical side is spot on, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong. From the Wi-Fi going down, microphones not working, cameras not working. I think the basics are obviously do the checks prepared. Do where do you then you have you spoken beforehand? Can you go the day before? Or can you go an hour earlier? Do you have back? Almost like a sort of risk planning. What happens if do you have a camera? Do you have spare cables? I mean, it might not be obviously the speaker's responsibility for this, but I think having an awareness of this, even if it's someone else who's doing this, knowing they're on top of it is important thing. So I think definitely there's some sort of like a checklist. If you're speaking at an event, there's a checklist that you should have where you ask them, what's
I mean,
what are you using?
Yeah, during the pandemic, of course, many conferences suddenly went online, and there were all manner of problems, because what happened was even with those early, whether they would bring the conference organizers would bring the speakers together to tell them what to do. They're going through it with such pace. And and I know that when you learn something, you need to experience it more than once. So, of course, when it came to the day, people have forgotten some of the things. And I remember viewing another speaker, and he was live broadcast, and he's like looking up there, and obviously for some reason, bearing in mind people were sitting in their own homes, it was completely unaware that he's being broadcast to these hundreds and thousands of people or whatever it was. And of course, it looks awkward, for the viewer, and I'm sure he wouldn't have been too impressed either. So I think it is about having a backup plan. I also think that a lot of the conferences now, they ask for the presentations in advance, so they can check it for everything, and check for that it all lands well, the video works. And of course, that is one safety measure. And if you wanted to do that, you could record that on, with a camera or in the PowerPoint viewer, if that's what you were using, I'm guessing. At least you've got an example that could play if all things went down. But I guess these are little snippets, and you can over prepare, can't you? But I think it's important to know that the worst thing is that your big moment, and then something goes wrong.
It's true. You can never you can never predict what will or won't happen. But preparation is key. It's The more prepared you are, the less likely you'll be caught out when things go wrong.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when you said about the online one. Yes, I think it's easier than ever to reach wide audiences online, but it's harder to keep an online audience engaged. I think that if you're in a physical environment and you can see the audience and look them directly in the eyes, and you can gauge whether you've got their attention, and ask them questions directly. I think it's a bit easier than online, where obviously it's small people on screen, and it's easier for people to sort of step up and walk away from the screen and not be noticed. So, that's right.
Yeah. So that's great. Any more future plans for Toastmasters? Where's it going? Anything exciting happening? Do you have like an annual conference, don't you?
We do, yeah. No, we do have an annual conference. We had one back in May, and we have one every year. Next year is the 10th anniversary of a district I'm in. So that's quite exciting. So it'll be an extra big, special conference. Any member of the public can go to the conference. We have the finals of our yearly contest, the best of the best who go on for work, to speak at the world stage for Toastmasters. And there's a lot of public speakers, not people, just people in Toastmasters. We invite very public speakers who have a very expertise and very great stories to share. Come speak on stage. So yeah, it's a great way of members networking and learning during the conference.
From each other. So I've got to finish then. Who's influenced you most as a speaker?
Who's influenced me most? There's there's so many. Who's influenced me most as a speaker? I think. Well, I mean, I'm always. I mean, every time I get a lot of Toastmaster meetings, not just my own club, and I'm always every time I listen to someone's speech, particularly someone who's been a member for a while, and I always enjoy listening to speeches. I'm always inspired by hearing people who can clearly quite confident, and they've got the skills, and I think through Toastmasters, like I said, at a conference, at the conference this year, we had a lot of great speakers, and one was Steve Judge, who's was a para athlete, and he was involved in a car crash and was told never walk again, and one leg was sort of ended up being short in the other, and eventually sort of set targets and pushed himself, and then went on to win the gold in para athletics. It's an incredible story, and now he's obviously speaking about that. So within Toastmasters and outside Toastmasters, I think when you hear stories like that from speakers, and they're telling incredible stories, and using the power of genuine storytelling, it is really inspiring. So
great.
That's the potential.
All right. And how can people find out more about Toastmasters?
The easiest way is to go to toastmasters.org or toastmastersinternational.org, which is the Toastmasters website, and there's a Find a Club link. So if we're interested to attend a club as a guest, they can just click on the Find a Club, type in their postcode, and it'll tell all the clubs near them. Or they can just go on the website, have a look around, loads of information. And yes, you can go to any meeting as a guest.
Great, lovely. Thank you so much, Nick Ronald from Toastmasters.
Thank you, Gordon.